What is up YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Mandarin Metal, and yes, we are back in F1 23. We need to try and finish the season before the next game, or even try and finish this season before the start of the current F1 calendar for 2024. But we are in Singapore for today, and we need to look at maybe some upgrades that we can bring onto this car. It might not go on right away, but let's first have a look at some of our weekly activities, and we are going to focus on the driver and the team at the same time. And now we're going to look at some upgrades. We need to bring some big upgrades, especially for going into the next season. We hopefully are able to maybe challenge them from the beginning, challenge the front runners from the beginning, and actually make a big difference. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to focus on some aerodynamics, and then we are going to look at upgrading the chassis. We are going to try and rush these developments to see if we can get it on before the Singapore Grand Prix. Hopefully they work out, because if it does, we could be set for a good race. If they don't, it's fine. We'll just have to manage them and then hope for the best later on in the season. So yeah, we're doing some major upgrades and just hoping that we can actually, perform a lot better. Last race we did quite well, but now we need to try and up our game, and we have a championship we're fighting for. At the moment we are, I think, 44 points behind Max Verstappen, and with these upgrades we should be able to get closer to those Red Bulls. And unfortunately, there is our first failure. So on the chassis department, we did fail on that upgrade, which is not what we wanted. So we will have to put it on, we'll redevelop it, and hopefully it will go on in time for the Japanese Grand Prix. But we still have one more upgrade that should come. Let's see if it hits, and it doesn't. It's another failure, a double failure for us going into the Singapore Grand Prix. This is not what we wanted, but we have to just persevere. We have to continue with what we're doing. So we will again redevelop this, and hopefully it's going to come before or just after the Japanese Grand Prix. But now we are going to go to the race weekend. We have a lot of things we need to do. We need to learn the track. They have changed the layout for Singapore, and it means that our lap times will be decreased, which is pretty nice. And I think the flow of the track should also be a lot better. And going to Singapore, generally with Singapore, we don't really care about practice 1 and practice 3 because it's during the day. Most of our running is going to be practice 2, because that is the all-important one, because this is where the tire temps will be at its peak, and also the track temperature should be at its peak. It should cool down during the evening, so it is going to be a lot better. But now, for today, what we will do is we are going to do some track acclimatization, our own track acclimatization, because we don't have that practice program, and we're just trying to see where we can improve on each lap. And as you can see, we got faster in some sectors, but sector 3 we were struggling with a little bit. It wasn't too bad. And then here, we actually did, on our third lap, we were flying, but we ran out of fuel, so we weren't able to actually put in a decent time. So we would have, I think, improved by another 5/10, if I remember correctly, while doing that practice. Not too bad, but now we are going to go out with our ERS, and this is just seeing how we can save fuel throughout the lap, making sure you don't use too much of your overtake, because this will drain your battery quite substantially, and you want to save as much fuel as possible. And you can see throughout the lap, because sector 2 and some of sector 3 is quite slow in Singapore, so you're able to save a lot of your ERS during those corners, so we don't really worry too much about it. Now, I think for us, we are going to go out for a flying lap on the soft tires, because we just want to see how we will be compared to the rest of the grid. And here we can see we have improved. We are currently P7. It's not the best lap time that we could have said. We are P7. We are 1.2 seconds off the pace, which is not what we want to see. We want to be a lot closer to that grid, because we are still, like I said in the beginning of the video, we are still fighting for a championship, and we need to kind of sort this out. So hopefully we can. And hopefully in practice 2 we can show a little bit more pace. The temperature should be a lot cooler than practice 1. So let's have a look as we go out. But first, let us focus on the other 2 programs that we have here. So we will be doing first race strategy, and then we should go into tire management. Now, pace in terms of medium tires, they were quite good. And we were setting some optimal lap times. I was really happy. But then lap 3, we struggled quite a bit. I don't know what was happening, and we started looking at our tire temps, and we noticed that towards the end of the lap, our tire temps were really increasing quite a bit, which was putting a lot of strain on those tires. And we might just need to go back to the drawing board with that. Just maybe lower the tire pressures just a little bit, just to help ease the pressure on the tires, because we are putting a lot of energy through them. And as you can see, the tire wear is quite even, and it meant that, you know, we do have a decent race pace, and hopefully we can perform a lot better than what we think we would. And now going out for our tire management, we managed to do some good tire management, and I actually forgot to do the second lap over here. I thought, oh, I'm done, and I went back to the pits. And yes, as you can see, we only got 3 of the 5 objectives, but I was like, nope, don't care too much. We are gonna do a qualifying sim right now, and we have improved by 5 temps. We were 3rd, and this should put us first. Yes, it has. We are currently first at the end of practice 2. This should be good for qualifying and the race. We have a lot of pace in this car, as it looks like. It looks like we have a lot of pace, and our teammate Mark Webber is 6th, so he also put in a decent lap time. He is only 9 tenths behind us. Everyone else, P2 Charles Leclerc is only a 10th, and then George Russell a 10th and a half. So yeah, it's not too bad. And we are skipping practice 3, like we said. It's also going to rain. We don't care. We don't want to waste any of our wear on. We don't want to put any wear on our components. And now going into qualifying, we are going to have to bring our A game. We have to focus. We're going to have to make sure we do not mess up, because this track can be very punishing, especially if you hit the wall. You can lose a lot of lap time if you have one piece of component that is damaged, and it is quite a narrow track. So let's have a look as we go. As we start our flying lap for the Singapore Grand Prix, down into turn 1, getting a good rotation on the car. Turn 3, we need to get a good exit out of turn 3. If you have any oversteer or understeer, or even a little bit of wheel spin on at the end of turn 3, you will lose a lot of lap time. Now getting a good exit out of turn 5. We are on our first DRS straight, DRS wide open, upshift to 7th gear, 8th gear. Now we are approaching turn 7, getting a great exit here, trying not to go too wide there, otherwise you will hit the curb, sending you into the wall. Now, getting a great exit out of turn 9 over here. It's a long corner, you don't want to hit the curb too much. Now we are on this little straight, setting up for probably the toughest part of the Singapore Grand Prix, this little tunnel section over here. And it's very, very narrow. It reminds you a lot of Monaco. And here, getting a great exit out of turn 13. This is going to set you up for a flyer, sector 3 and end of sector 2. So that turn is very, very important to trying to nail the Singapore Grand Prix lap. And here we go. This is the new part of the track. They have removed a big chunk of the track, and now approaching turn 16, 17, almost hitting the wall, a little bit of wall contact, but it's fine. Now 18 and 19, trying to carry as much speed as possible, and we do set the fastest lap of a 131.3. And then, you know what, we are going to call it for that part. And we ended up being 3rd, so Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, the 2 Red Bull drivers, ended up just outshining me ever so slightly, not within a tenth. So it was good. And now for Q2, what we are going to do is we're going to do our banker lap, just so we can see if we can, handle it. And you can see we did sustain some damage on the front wing, and trying to get some speed in that last corner was absolutely ridiculous, and we couldn't do it. And now we are going to go out for our final flying lap for Q2. Can we improve on the lap time that we set in Q1 and the bank lap time that we set at the beginning of Q2? Let's have a look as we get a great exit out of turn 3. Now, turn 5 over here, trying to use a little bit of the curve. DRS wide open, 6th gear, 7th gear. Now upshift to 8th gear. Don't take too long with that upshift. Now approaching the end of the first sector, turn 7, trying to avoid the curbs. We get a good exit out of turn 7. Now turn 8. Approaching turn 9, we are currently 9/10 up, almost a second up from our previous best. We've got a good exit out of turn 9. Now approaching turn 10. This is again the most difficult part of the track. George Russell has just put in the fastest lap of a 1:30.9. Now going through turn 11, turn 12, and approaching turn 13. Slowing the car down as much as possible so we don't have any oversteer. Now we are 2.2 seconds up. Approaching the end of sector 2, we've just put in the fastest second sector of this lap. Let's have a look at where we end up. It's looking like a great lap at the Singapore Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz has just put in the fastest lap of a 1:30.9. Are we able to beat that? Do we have enough left in this car to perform the way we wanted to? Now, almost 3 seconds up on our previous best. Where is this going to go? 3.5 seconds quicker than our previous lap time. And what lap time was that? We do have first place, but the lap time, it was absolutely amazing. It was a 1:30.5. We are 4/10 quicker than the rest of the grid. What a lap for Q2 at the Singapore Grand Prix. Hopefully we can replicate this in Q3 and take pole position, putting us in a good spot for the race. But as we do, we are going for our first flyer banker lap. First lap of Q3, it ended up being a 131.9. Not too bad for the flyer lap, a lot better. We didn't sustain any damage. Carlos Sainz has just put in a 130.7. That is a big lap time to beat. And we are going to go out on a new set of softs. And this is it. This is the moment we are waiting for. We want to see if we are able to get pole position. Currently, we are 8th. Let's see what happens when we come out of the turn 3. And we are not up by a lot. So this is not looking like a good first sector. We need to improve a hell of a lot more if we want to take pole position. Let's have a look at where we will be at the end of sector 1. Can we claw back some time? And we aren't even a 10th up. This is not looking good. And then we run wide. Oh no, this is not turning out to be the lap that we wanted to be in the final parts of Q3. Max Verstappen has just put in a 1:30.6, and now Charles Leclerc has put in a 1:30.4. What a lap by Charles Leclerc. That does beat our lap time in Q2, but are we able to beat that lap time? Let's have a look. We are currently 7/10 up, 8/10 up on our previous best. A little wide coming out of turn 13. It's not what we wanted. We've lost about 2/10 just by going wide. And this is not the lap. This is turning out to be a nightmare lap at Singapore. We're just losing time at this point. We're only 5/10. We've lost another 10th going out of those corners. What's happened? Where is our pace? This is not what we wanted. Another 10th lost in that part of the track. What is going on? We have clawed back some time. We are currently 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. Where is it going to put us? Let's have a look. But I don't think we improved by that much, and we are 5th. What a shambles, what a mockery we have made of ourselves, where we should have been on pole position. A 1:30.0, 6/10 off the pace. That is not the lap time that we wanted. It is not what we wanted to see. But this means that we do have an uphill battle for the Singapore Grand Prix, and hopefully it's an exciting one. Not a lot of overtaking opportunities, but if we get a great start, we will be able to take the lead.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. Things have changed slightly around the Marina Bay circuit for 2023. 4 corners have been taken out, the lap length reduced to just over 3 miles. That might be a welcome relief to the drivers, might be even more of a relief for their brakes. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Russell, Iceman, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Hamilton, Gasly, Perez, Bottas, Ricciardo, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Albon, Webber, Joe, Sargent, and Yuki Tsunoda. And now it's time to head down to the track. And a warm welcome to Natalie Pinkham, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Iceman. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances. But what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another good race today.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
And there you have it, guys. That is the classification for the Singapore Grand Prix. We are going to do the medium to hard tires. We aren't changing the strategy, and we are hoping to win this Grand Prix. It is 5 lights and away we go. And we get a great start. We've just overtaken Russell, now Sainz, now Leclerc, and Max Verstappen. What an amazing start. We've overtaken 4 cars. We had a bit of collision with Charles Leclerc, but we are leading this Singapore Grand Prix, and that is what we wanted from the start. Max Verstappen is behind us. He is on the harder compound tire, so hopefully we can push a little bit harder than him and he doesn't get any closer to us. But he does try and dive down the inside, but we are also late on the brakes. He's run over the curb. He's hit me in the process. I wonder if he sustained some sort of damage going over those curbs. We'd have to see later on, but I think he might have because he is already a second behind us. So maybe he has some floor damage. But we need to now focus on the race. We haven't sustained any damage with that contact with Max, and we are just going to try and break any sort of DRS and pushing as hard as possible, making sure that we protect ourselves from the guys behind us, because if they overtake Max, they are going to be a lot quicker than us. We don't have the best car at the moment, but hopefully that does all change. So we need to take every opportunity that we can and gain as many points as possible. Max Verstappen is leading this Drivers' Championship, and we aren't far behind him. There's still a lot of races. There's still a lot of points up for grabs. This might go down to the last race, but let's not focus on that right now. Let's focus on this race here, and we do set the fastest lap at the end of turn 1. Max Verstappen still in second place, Carlos Sainz third, Russell fourth, and Norris fifth. And now on lap 4, Max Verstappen is 5.7 seconds, 6 seconds behind us, but Carlos Sainz has now overtaken him. So we need to kind of hopefully build this gap, or just keep the gap at what it is at the moment, because we can't have these guys overtake us. We don't want to lose this position, because these are the points that we need. Max Verstappen is dropping quite quickly. He is now up into 4th spot. Norris fairly close behind him, and there we go. Norris is overtaken. Hamilton has overtaken Norris. My bad. Now just trying to keep an eye on the gap between myself and Sainz. It is coming down a little bit. It is now down by 4/10 within a span of a sector and a half. It is not looking good. He might actually be able to overtake us by lap 10, maybe 11, if he is going to be a second quicker than us each lap. So that is something we need to have a look at and try and see if we can manage the pace. But let us focus on driving the car and, driving the best that we can, because we can't keep focusing on what we're doing wrong. We need to focus on nailing each corner, and hopefully by doing this, we're able to put in some decent lap times, some decent race pace, and then we can then manage the gap to Sainz. that's what we want. But on lap 7, he is now 3 seconds behind us. Not too worried at this point. We're still focusing on the race, still trying to put in some decent lap times. Max Verstappen has fallen out of the top 5. Norris is finishing that top 5 at the moment. Now Carlos Sainz is behind Russell on lap 12, and Russell is 1.3 seconds behind us. So the guys have had a bit of a battle behind us, and with the guys battling behind us, we are able to hold on to the lead of the Singapore Grand Prix a little longer than what we expected it to be. We expected to be maybe second or even third by lap 10, but we're still first in lap 12. And now we have gone very wide, and we get a snap of oversteer, and we have to have a look at our tires. Our tires aren't looking too bad, but I think these guys behind us are doing a lot better. But on lap 15, we need to come in, we need to set ourselves up for the rest of this Grand Prix. We have a long way to go. We come into the pits. Russell did pit before us, but he might actually take the lead of this Grand Prix before we can. And you can see we have sustained a lot of damage, and it's not what we wanted. This is not the way we wanted our Singapore Grand Prix to go. We do get a decent stop. It's a 2.3 second stop. The guys are working very hard. And here we go. Let's see, where do we end up after pitting? We are currently 11th place, and just as I was warned about the white line, we do end up crossing the white line, and that is not ideal. But now, 11th spot, we have a lot of overtaking to do. I think there's still a few cars that need to put in front of us. This is going to make it a lot easier. And now, on lap 16, we are behind Sargent, and we dive down and go around the outside of Sargent at a very unconventional part of the track, and we end up in 10th spot. Now we need to just build that gap between myself and Lewis, and by lap 20, Russell was, I think, 6-7 seconds ahead of us, but now we started catching him. He's now 4.7, but with that, Hamilton is also starting to catch us. Norris is on the medium tire, so I expect him to be a little bit quicker than us in the coming laps. We'll have to see how that all plays out. And here we go, lap 22. Now Hamilton 4 tenths behind us. We ended up struggling a little bit on the tires a lot earlier than we expected to, and we just weren't able to keep up the pace that we started off with. And I think it is going to be because of all the damage we have sustained in this Grand Prix. We have a lot of bodywork damage, and we're suffering. We are feeling the effects of it. Almost running wide there. Hamilton is very close to us, but we go again. Now lap 23. Hamilton still breathing down our neck, and Norris is breathing down our neck. Alonso is 12 seconds behind, but we've managed to keep pace with Russell. But Hamilton did dive down the inside, and he went over the curb. He ended up hitting me. We've now got front wing damage with some bodywork damage, and this just means that our Singapore Grand Prix has become a lot more difficult. And here you can see we have a massive oversteer. We end up having some contact with Alonso, so we have completely ruined our front wing. And we unfortunately had contact with Alonso, and there is more contact with the wall. We could not slow down the car enough, and with that contact with Alonso, we had to dive into the pits. We weren't given any reprimands or any penalties, but you know what? Hit me up with a comment down below. Do you think I should take a 5-place grid penalty in the next Grand Prix for that contact with Alonso? We'll put on a new component to take a 5-place grid penalty, making sure that, you know, we serve our time. But let me know. We are on the final lap. Let us focus. Hamilton is very close to us. He's trying to dive down the inside again. We're trying to give him enough space, but he has just hit us once again. With this front wing, we are suffering. We are going to be very slow in this part of the track because of all the turns and how slow this section is. And it means we have to be hyper focused. We don't want to end our Grand Prix over here. we are second. Russell will win the Singapore Grand Prix, but we just need to fend off Lewis Hamilton. We cannot lose any more points. Max Verstappen did not finish the race. He had a DNF earlier on, and there we go, Russell does win it, and we almost run into the wall, but we slowed it down just in time, and we're using all of our overtake. We don't need Hamilton to overtake us right now, and this is looking very, very difficult. Slowing down the car is very difficult to control the car, and this final turn is going to be the most difficult part of the track. Very, very slow. Hamilton almost overtaking us, but we ended up securing P2 for the Singapore Grand Prix. What a crazy race. All that damage and we still ended up P2. This is great for us because this means that we are now closer to Max Verstappen in this championship. This championship has just become a three-way battle between myself, George Russell, and Max Verstappen. There we have it. There is your top three. You have Russell, myself, and Lewis Hamilton rounding up the top three. Good up on Mercedes, double podium finish, and there you have it. We are now second. We took second spot after having a horrible qualifying session, and we are now third in the championship with 23 points behind Max Verstappen. George Russell is 9 points behind Max Verstappen, and Mercedes have just taken the lead of the Constructors' title. Guys, that is it for the Singapore Grand Prix. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to like the video, like the video. If you want to dislike, hit that dislike button. But also, if you want to subscribe and see more content, hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. And see you all in the next one. Peace. Cheers, guys.
Once again, as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.